All right, here's a hypothetical question. Let's imagine a very long time ago a tribe of people lived in the rural countryside. Let's say that place was one of abundance, with unique plants and vegetation. But now let's imagine that somehow that piece of land got cut off from the rest of society and was left alone, isolated and forgotten. What would happen to the people, the culture, and especially the food? Well, you've probably figured out that this is not a hypothetical. It's exactly the story of Ko Kret, just an hour north of Bangkok, but a completely different world, and one of the most exciting, unique, and bizarre places to eat anywhere. Here, iconic royal favorites are everyday cuisine. The go-to ingredient grows nowhere else on the planet, and it doesn't even count as strange to find stuff like custard topped with fried shallots. But Ko Kret is also a place of incredible resilience, a melting pot of marginalized people, and somewhere that even in isolation manages to stay on the cutting edge, at the forefront of the new Thailand. So today, well, we're taking a staycation and making a food trip to the island of Ko Kret. It's the 1990s and tourism in Thailand is starting to explode. The economy is surging, growing exponentially as the Vietnam War fades into distant memory, and with the financial crisis still a few years away. The capital city of Bangkok has tripled in population in just 30 years, and with more than 6 million residents. New suburbs and exurbs are being built stretching far into the countryside, connecting the urban center to places as far away as Nonthaburi, the next province to the north. In the summer of 1993, the rains came, the annual rainy season that soaks this part of the tropics, and with so much new infrastructure, the rising water level of the Chao Phraya River had the potential to cause some serious damage. So the government dispatched a team to assess the flooding, visiting the neighborhoods in the lowland basin, and while they were making their report, they stopped over at a small island in the middle of the river, about 30 kilometers north of downtown. Now, this island wasn't unknown. It was kind of a landmark for boats passing by because of an old Buddhist stupa leaning at a perilous angle like it was falling into the water in very slow motion. But beyond that, nobody really paid notice to Ko Kret. As far as anyone was concerned, it was just overgrown jungle with a few homes belonging to poor fishermen. But when the officials chartered a boat to the island, what they found was not what they expected. On the island, hidden from view, were a total of about 6,000 people, living in 7 distinct villages, all crowded into a place the same size as Central Park. And even more surprising was the fact that those people didn't speak Thai. They had their own language, culture, and cuisine, and somehow they'd been there hiding in plain sight since before the country of Thailand even existed. Alright, with everything I've said to set up this story, if you've never been to Ko Kret, you're probably imagining we're about to lock in for a long ocean journey, or a trip across the open water. Like we're heading to North Sentinel or some remote island in Indonesia or the South Pacific. But from the pier at Wat Sanam Nua in Nonthaburi, you can already see the destination. In fact, it looks so close that if you got a running start, you might not even need a boat, and could just clear the canal with a good jump. All right, so when we started planning to come back to Ko Kret and tape a video today, we were in the middle of like this amazing we'll call it Bangkok winter, where it was like 23, 24 degrees. Booked this trip, and then the temperature just surged. And today it's like in Fahrenheit, I don't know, a couple hundred. So we're gonna try and get out of the sun. We're not gonna spend too much time outside today. We're just here to eat. And the Tod Mun Nort Kala, the signature of the island, these crispy, battered and fried flours, local herbs and vegetables, is just right there. It's the first thing you see when you get off the boat.
So that's our first destination.
As an introduction to the food and unique culture of Ko Kret, this is perfect. Visually striking, completely unexpected, and entirely local. A whole bunch of flowers and herbs endemic to the island. Battered and fried, then served in a basket topped with sweet chili sauce like some parallel universe kind of bouquet. This is my 5th trip to the island, and I've tried, trust me, to identify everything on the table. I can't. Half this stuff is obscure, things like the ixora flower, white sesbania pods, and the so-called orchid ginger, a plant unique only to Ko Kret and nowhere else. And those are the easy ones. The rest, well, your guess is as good as mine. This is sold all across the island, but just on the island, because even a few dozen meters away across the water, this doesn't exist. Honestly, everything on Ko Kret looks and tastes completely different from the mainland, and that begs the question, what the hell is this place? Now, in the most general sense, Ko Kret is this, a small patch of land exactly 4.12 square kilometers in the middle of the Chao Phraya River, just south of the line between Nonthaburi and Pathum Thani. Its rise as a tourist destination started almost immediately after 1993, when it was made a flagship of a new program called CBT, or Community-Based Tourism. CBT is the same initiative that brought us almost all of today's floating markets, built with federal financing to help bring development and income to the countryside. CBT financing gave Ko Kret electricity and running water for the first time. It built a path connecting the 7 villages and introduced the public to the unique local foods like the stuff we just ordered. But that's obviously not what we meant, so again, what the heck is this place? Let's start at the very beginning. Alright, now the first thing we need to mention is that there wasn't always a Ko Kret. At least it wasn't always an island. It's man-made, created by royal decree in the days of Ayutthaya, the old empire based just to the north. Now, Ayutthaya was about 90 kilometers inland from the Gulf of Siam, and when the city was established in 1351, its location provided defense and security. But over the centuries, as it grew into an economic powerhouse, every single day boats would arrive carrying important people, diplomats and dignitaries and traders from across the region, and as far away as India, Persia, and Europe. And boats were leaving as well, carrying the goods that would make the kingdom rich and drive the economy of mainland Southeast Asia. And as more and more boats navigated the Chao Phraya, well, the location was no longer an advantage. It was more of an annoyance. And for the people who had to make this journey, well, navigating the bends and turns and bottlenecks was dangerous. So starting in the early 1500s, Siamese rulers set out to make the kingdom more accessible by digging canals to bypass the curves and straighten the path of the river. The one that's relevant to this story would be commissioned in 1722 by King Sa, and it would shave 7 kilometers off the trip from the ocean. It took 10,000 workers to build, and in the end the current would widen the new channel and what was left would be a brand new island. A place, of course, that we now call Ko Kret. Now, as far as any of us know, when the island was created, there was no one living here, at least not yet. It was uninhabited jungle and would stay that way for another half-century before the island would change forever, and that started with events set in motion by the very same King Sa. In this case, his death. Basically, without a clear successor, when the king passed in 1733, Ayutthaya fell into a civil war. And in the instability that would follow, well, the neighboring kingdom, what's now Myanmar, saw an opening and a chance to expand their own empire. Beginning in the 1750s, the Konbaung dynasty kicked off a series of invasions, gaining ground and annexing territory, and finally, in 1767, burning Ayutthaya to the ground. Now, the obvious question is why today is Thailand an independent country, and it never became Burmese territory? Well, that's because just as the Burmese were finishing off the siege of Ayutthaya, the Chinese saw their own chance and invaded Myanmar. So the Burmese army had to turn around and race home, and that gave Siam a chance to regroup. They'd build a new capital in Thonburi. Anyway, here's where this relates to our story. It's 1774 and the Burmese have signed a peace treaty with China. The new Siamese kingdom is still weak and recovering, so Burma, under King Sinbushan, decided to come back and finish the job. But since he'd learned a lesson from the last invasion, he split up his army and kept some of his best forces at home in case of emergency. In need of more soldiers, he created a new battalion made up of slaves, taken as captives during the Burmese Civil War from an ethnic group called the Mon. And King Sinbushan sent this battalion across the border as the vanguard, leading the charge into Siam. All right, let's stop here for a second. I want to quickly throw out one more hypothetical. What do you think happens when you take a group of slaves who were combat veterans, and give them a bunch of weapons, then tell them to go out and invade another country? You get one guess. Exactly. They crossed the border at the Three Pagodas Pass and then turned straight around, massacred their own commanders, and began routing garrisons within Myanmar. They got as far as the capital, the city of Avon, before finally the Mon rebellion was defeated and put down. The survivors gathered their families and took refuge in Siam, where Thaksin, the king of Thonburi, honored them as heroes for refusing to attack his country. The Mon commander, a man named Binya Sain, would be invited to join the Siamese court, and by the time of his death, almost 50 years later, he ranked as one of Thailand's top officials, granted the rank of Chao Phraya. And as for his army, well, they were given a place to live where they'd be safe even if the Burmese invaded again. A place hard to access and where they could practice their own culture and speak their own language. An island, as a matter of fact, hidden in the river just north of Bangkok. Now, that's not the whole story when it comes to the unique and wild history and cuisine of Ko Kret. In fact, a lot would happen between 1774 and 1993 that we still need to get to, and it has its own fascinating twists and turns. But at the root of everything, this is still a Mon island. That first snack, the flowers in the basket, well, at least according to the people here, that's an adaptation of this, the kind of fritters native to the Mon and sold everywhere across modern Myanmar. It just evolved over 200 years to utilize the plants that grow wild on Ko Kret. And that makes you wonder what else we can find here with an ancient history combined with unique local ingredients. So for our first meal, well, we're going to a restaurant whose owner just happens to be a direct descendant of the soldiers of the Mon Rebellion. Khun was born and raised on Ko Kret, like her parents and relatives and everyone else since before the world reached the Industrial Revolution. She grew up in a house next door. This place back in the 1960s belonged to her grandparents. Nothing ever really changed on Ko Kret until one day it did. And not only was a new market planned, but the path cut right through her property. So she opened a restaurant, turning her house into a place where she serves her own cuisine just 2 days a week, open only for lunch on Saturdays and Sundays. Now, it's not rare to find Mon cuisine in Thailand. If you want an explanation of what it is and its 5,000-year history, well, we covered the topic in our video from the Burmese border, and our one on Khanom Jeen, and then when we filmed in Phetchaburi, and the history of noodles, and basically what I'm saying is it's extremely influential and we talk about it a lot. Like again, Khanom Jeen, and Khao Chae, a royal favorite of rice soaked in chilled jasmine water and served with an array of sides, beloved in Thailand during Songkran or the New Year holiday. And in fact, it was Khao Chae that inspired King Rama IV to order Thailand's first shipment of ice, sent on the water from Singapore. But the amazing thing is, if you research that dish, it was said to have been introduced to the palace by a Burmese commander, Binya Sain, the leader of the Mon Rebellion, who once brought Khun Deng's ancestors to Ko Kret, where she now makes this dish in a house here for generations.
อันนี้ก็เป็นข้าวแช่เป็นอาหารพื้นบ้านของคนมอญค่ะข้าวแช่ก็มีกับข้าว5อย่างมีเชโป๊หวานมีกระเทียมดองผัดไข่มีหมูฝอยแล้วก็มีลูกกะปิอันนี้เป็นพริกหยวกสอดไส้หมูสับค่ะแล้วก็ข้าวเนี่ยก็ต้องเป็นข้าวหอมมะลิเก่าแล้วก็จะต้องเอาน้ำที่เราอบควันเทียนแล้วมาใส่เป็นน้ำหอมแล้วก็โรยดอกไม้ดอกมะลิหรือดอกกระดังงาค่ะเวลารับประทานก็เราทานข้าวก่อนคำหนึ่งแล้วก็กับข้าวตามเราจะไม่เอากับข้าวมาใส่รวมกันแบบนี้เพราะว่าเดี๋ยวมันจะทำให้น้ำไม่หอมต้องทานข้าวคำกับคำค่ะส่วนอันนี้ของที่ร้านก็เป็นขนมจีนน้ำยาปลาช่อนค่ะก็เป็นอาหารของคนมอญชนิดหนึ่งเหมือนกันค่ะก็เป็นอาหารของที่ร้านอันนี้ก็เป็นยำหน่อกะลาค่ะหน่อกะลาก็เป็นผักพื้นบ้านที่เรามีต้นอยู่ตรงนั้นแล้วเราก็เอามายำอย่างเงี้ยค่ะก็เป็นอาหารของที่ร้านเราค่ะ
Daria, can you hand us that for a second? Just the big, yeah. Yeah. So this is
อันนี้เป็นหน่อกะลาหน่อกะลาก็เป็นผักพื้นบ้านที่ขึ้นอยู่ตามท้องร่องตามสวนเนี่ยค่ะแล้วเวลาจะใช้เนี่ยเราก็จะปอกลอกเอาเปลือกออกแล้วเหลือแต่ไส้แบบนี้แล้วเราก็เอามายำอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแล้วก็เอามาทอดแบบนี้ด้วยค่ะก็เป็นอันนี้ก็ชุบแป้งทอดแต่ว่าอันเนี้ยก็เป็นผักที่อยู่เป็นผักพื้นถิ่นของคนมอญ
The magic of Ko Kret food is it's a time capsule. Dishes preserved exactly as they were made 250 years ago, but different. Adjusted to fit the available ingredients and then recalibrated to maximize the flavor. Like we saw with the flowers and again here. It's awesome.
I was complaining when we started rolling camera earlier about how hot today is. That's what this is for. This dish is supposed to be the way to cool down on a hot day. That's literally what it's famous for in Thailand. And this is the only place other than the town of Phetchaburi, Ko Kret and Phetchaburi, the only places that I'm aware of where this dish is sold widely year-round.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm. So what do we have in here? We have the orchid ginger. We have some seafood. We have herbs and what looks like minced pork, tomato. That looks like wood ear mushrooms too. And chili. Ooh, I got like 3 small bird's eye chilies just in that bite. There's one thing we had last year that I'm still looking for. There's a lot of, it's not the best food you're gonna find on the island, but I can't leave without finding the coconut cake with fried garlic. The weirdest thing that I've ever had. It's gotta be somewhere. I know that it's sold here.
All right, sorry to keep going with the hypothetical questions, but here's one more. What happens when a people who live a quiet life of isolation are suddenly introduced to waves of tourists who want to buy snacks? Well, maybe it's not hypothetical, because the answer is you get a lot of really weird stuff. Food that's like what might happen if you tried to recreate popular dishes by looking at photographs. It's like any other Thai market, but I don't know, a couple stops away in the multiverse.
Okay, coconut cake with garlic, we found it. Can I have one to take away, please? Okay.
All right, my memory might have been a little bit hazy, and on second look, there's no coconut or garlic. It's actually just a regular sweet custard topped with fried shallots. And it's not even a mistake, apparently it's an old Ayutthaya snack called Khana Mo Geng Tua. Now that itself brings up some questions, like who first thought it was a good idea to combine these two ingredients? Like what made someone taste a beautiful spongy cake and think to themselves, you know what this needs? Onions. Actually, we do know who it was. It was this person. But all that does is open up a whole new set of questions about this mysterious island. Her name was Maria Guiomar de Pina, and this was not her only invention. She actually gets the credit for a lot of other desserts found today at Royal Thai restaurants and here at the Ko Kret Market. Now, I'm going to skip over her story since it's so insane it deserves its own complete video. But basically, she was half Japanese and half Portuguese Bengali, born and raised in Ayutthaya, and she'd go on to become the most famous pastry chef in Siamese history. But she didn't have any connections to the Mon. And in fact, the very last king she would serve in the royal palace was the same man who built the canal that set all of this in motion. So why does this matter? Well, let me go back one more time to the topic of the CBT, the initiative that built this market. Now, the reason it's been so effective is there's a rule that every vendor must come from the local community, and the food they serve should be local too, or at least use local techniques and ingredients. So why are the people here, isolated until the 1990s, serving prestigious royal snacks straight from Thailand's palace kitchen? And come to think of it, what about the food at the last restaurant? Not the Khao Chae or the Khanom Jeen, but the curry that was served on top. Or the use of orchid ginger to make a yum, the most quintessential of all Thai salads. Walking up and down the Ko Kret Market, you see a lot of unique Mon foods, but also obscure Thai curries, Muslim snacks like satay, and it brings us to the next part of this story, which is what happened during those 219 years between the Mon Rebellion and when this market was constructed. Alright, to understand the island's food, we need to start by adding one important footnote to the last history segment. And that's the fact that the Mon soldiers didn't choose this island at random. It was already well known among Siam's Mon people. See, all the way back in the 1720s when Tai Sa sent his workers to build the canal, well, those workers were Mon, refugees who'd resettled after their own kingdom fell 200 years earlier. Since the canal took years of work, they built this stupa, meant to resemble Myanmar's Shui Mato Pagoda, the most famous Mon holy site. When the workers moved on, this became a place of worship for Thailand's Mon, and somewhere Bin Yasin's rebels probably chose for that reason. A lot of what we know from the first decades after 1774 comes because of this temple, as the Mon might have kept to themselves on the island, but a series of Thai kings came to visit the pagoda. In fact, it was given its long name by King Rama V, in honor of his Mon grandmother. Beyond that, the story pretty much goes dark until the late 19th century when a new series of canals started construction, connecting Bangkok to the outlying farmland. This time the laborers weren't Mon, they were Muslims from the Malay Peninsula, who were brought as indentured workers after wars between Siam and Patani. When the canals were completed, the Malays started building their own communities, far from the city center as they spoke their own language and didn't practice Thai culture. A few groups found their way to Ko Kret, built mosques on the less populated south side, and to this day, 2 of the 7 Ko Kret villages are Muslim. And there would be one more influx of people to the island, and once again they arrived to seek refuge. But this time it wasn't a persecuted minority. In the early 20th century, with the Thai economy booming, a handful of wealthy aristocrats started constructing vacation homes, and a few would settle here on Ko Kret. This at first was just a trickle, but soon enough it would become a flood. In 1932, Thailand would be thrown into crisis when a rise in populism led to the abandonment of absolute monarchy. Rival factions battled for control of the new government, and in the instability, power would find its way into the hands of the autocratic Plek Pibun Songkram, who allied Siam with Japan and the Axis powers at the dawn of World War II. Between 1932 and 1940, dozens of elites who were on the outside of the new alignment built their own mansions on Ko Kret to lay low and avoid the coming storm. They built homes on the water, brought cooks and household staff, and many would never leave, their ancestors still found on the island today. By the time the officials showed up in 1993, Ko Kret was a one-of-a-kind melting pot, majority Mon, mixed with Malay Muslim and Thai aristocracy. Combine that with endemic local ingredients and you end up with a history and cuisine unlike anywhere else. And that brings us to our next meal. To find a place to sit down and try the snacks we collected in the market, we've arrived at our second destination. Like the first one, also specializing in Chae, but with a menu that also represents each faction that calls Ko Kret home. There are the Mon dishes. In fact, this place is perhaps best known for their take on Khanom Jeen. Then there are the royal Thai appetizers, usually, at least in Bangkok, only found in the most prestigious restaurants. And they even serve a homemade version of satay, which of course arrived through the Malay Muslims. The owner, just like Khun, was raised in a Mon family on the island, but in her case, she was part of the first generation who grew up after 1993, which means she left the island to study, taking classes in Bangkok and eventually majoring in English at a Thai university. So this is 220 years. There's been a Mon community living here, the land granted by King Thaksin from Thonburi. Khao Chae obviously is now famous in Thailand and Myanmar with everybody at Tingyan or at Songkran, for New Year.
Normally we have in summer.
But here on the island, you serve it all the time.
Yes, all the time because of the reason of the tourists, because we try to represent this culture to everyone. About 30, almost 40 years ago, because the crisis in Thailand, the flooded, it's very, very heavy. I can't remember which year, but at that time, all people that living here quite suffer from the economic threat. Some government officer, they try to help and try to encourage everyone over here that in the previous day just working like clay pots and do the clay things and represent it outside. At that time, they initiate some creative idea to show all the culture here, or how we are living here, and which one is interesting, like food or souvenir or some traditional ceremony, something like that. Then try to represent it out.
What's this?
That one is Thai Mon appetizer. You can say that actually originates from Mon. It's a watermelon because the story is in the past. Thai people, we try to create things when we eat fruit, like because the weather is hot, we try to make it cool. Then we think of the watermelon, how to eat it a lot more flavor or texture. Then we do like a fried fish and salt and sugar mixed together, make like a dip. That is, Thai name is Ma Ho. Ma actually is horse, but the word horse in Thai is no meaning exactly the right meaning, but it's express the feeling when you eat pineapple. You're gonna taste the sour taste. When taste the sour taste, maybe it's just sour. It's not enough. They try to make that sour is more special by put some salt and sugar together for lift up the taste of the sour. For example, if the pineapple is very sour, when you eat with the topping, it's gonna make that sour is more
balanced.
Interesting.
So we do have reservations for a big meal in a few minutes, so I need to slow down on. I can't finish every bite on the table, but yeah, it's good.
I don't know how I feel about the garlic salty watermelon.
I love this stuff. You know, usually when we're at home and we have watermelon, I think to myself, you know what this needs?
is some dried flaked fish and fried scallion. No, it's great. It's actually really good.
Do you ever wish you were alive a few hundred years earlier so there were still places left to discover? Islands and continents not yet filled into the world map. I think it's something that never goes away. The thought that there might still be some forgotten spot hiding in plain sight, and maybe we could be the first outsider to learn its secrets. Atlantis, North Sentinel Island. Ko Kret realistically isn't that. Maybe it never was. By now, it's certainly hard to imagine you're Dr. Livingstone stumbling onto Victoria Falls when you have to fight off the tourists for some deep-fried flowers. But at least we can pretend and tell ourselves that if it's possible that there's an island with such an unbelievable story, with dishes and ingredients we've never seen, lost to the outside world until the 1990s even though it's right next to freaking Bangkok, well, anything is possible. For our last meal on Ko Kret, we're heading to the southwest corner of the island, so remote it's still not connected to any roads or walking paths. Just like the New World for Christopher Columbus, only accessible by jumping on a boat. But unlike Columbus, our destination is a fine dining restaurant serving a set menu of dishes connected to Ko Kret, in its own way just as worthy a quest, and for a much more noble purpose. Thank you so much. Of all the world-class restaurants in Bangkok and the surroundings, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this has to be the only one that's not accessible by land. It's called Rorsor 127, the year on the Rattanakosin calendar, officially 1908, when a man named Praya Acharaj Songsiri would purchase this plot of land and start building his new home. He was Thailand's Chief Justice, and before his long career in service would finish, he'd also become the Minister of Agriculture and Vice President of the Senate. Praya Songsiri was, of course, one of the Siamese elite who found their way to Ko Kret, and then would remain on the island during the years of political upheaval.
Oh, what did he use this for in the house a long time ago? When this was part of the house, do you know what this room was?
Actually,
Just like a sitting room, just to sit and watch the water?
This one, is the living room
The
of the owner.
sunset room?
Yes,
Yeah.
and reading the book, something like that.
I see.
Yeah.
God, how nice that must have been.
Okay.
A few years ago, a group of old college friends found themselves catching up over lunch and brought up how much fun it would be for them to all go into business. One of them just happened to be the granddaughter of Praya Songsiri, and she mentioned this property, which had long fallen into disrepair. Next thing they knew, they were working on a renovation. Before she took on this project, Khun Supamas Bunpramuk was a hairdresser. None of the partners had restaurant experience. So to build out the kitchen, they would need to find help.
Okay. This is the kitchen.
Cool.
This one is a new build. Because actually we don't want to do something about the fire.
In the old
activity.
wood, yeah,
yes,
you
in the
can't.
wooden
No,
house,
cannot.
So that's why we build a new one. That is a cement one. And this is our chef.
You're serving
Our partner as well.
50 customers at one time?
Yes.
In this kitchen?
Yes.
There's no second kitchen?
No.
Just this kitchen? And you're serving 50 customers at a time in this
we
kitchen?
prepare well.
So this is just the plating area?
Yes.
So
the plating area.
all the cooking is here, 50
Only-
customers at
only
one
this.
time?
take the helm of the new restaurant, the partners hired Chef Nan, a decorated Thai food master and for 20 years, a culinary director for Thai Airways, based at the test kitchen in Italy. But when she saw the property and learned the story of Ko Kret, she found herself back in her home country, developing a menu that changes from day to day based around two criteria. Number one, what's available on the island. And second, using recipes straight from Phaya Songsiri's own kitchen. First of all, for people who are watching this, you are not from Ko Kret, but you now are working here. What have you found about this island that's unique, and what, as a chef, kind of inspires you about the food? Because the food's weird out here. It's a little different. It's not classic Thai food. The ingredients are a little different with things like the orchid ginger. You know, the old techniques and traditions are different because it's an island that's been kind of on its own for a long time. How does that inspire you as a chef?
Actually, you know what? I decide to make the menu relate with the house as well. Also behind we have the plan, so many things. So the first of the menu we decide from the names behind the house, and then after that I think about how we help people in this area. So we try to find the ingredients that can find in this area. So that is my point to
buying from local farmers.
Yes,
and
of course,
like
of course. Farm to table, that is true.
So now, talk me through everything on the table. Let's see what we have.
Let's tell
and
you.
let's actually start with just this, because this rice looks kind of
yes. This is
too.
jasmine mixed with the red jasmine as well. But the pot, this is from the people from Ko Kret.
Yep.
We
just found the guys making them.
This one. Okay. So we put in this pot. The first one we show you that one is a white curry. Normally you heard about red curry. You heard about the green curry, and this is a white one, you know, make the coconut, no need to put the chili paste, no need anything at all, just the red onion, just the karanka, a little bit, and I put the lemongrass, and we make the special one inside.
Hey, Andy Cooks, if you're watching this, we had a lot of response the first time we showed a white curry on this channel. Some people who were watching that, because we showed it at Chamgang, the restaurant in Bangkok. They made a white curry, and a lot of people who saw that kind of were really interested. This is the second time we've shown a white curry on the channel. I'm excited to show this.
Yeah, white curry also maybe sometimes people think about the soup, tom kha kai, you know, tom kha kai, that is quite similar but different.
But this is made with dried beef?
Not dry beef, sun dry. It means inside have the sun dry beef we do behind our house, you know, because the sun dry over here is very good sun or behind our
so
land.
This is the white curry with sun-dried beef.
Sun dried beef, yeah.
And you dry the beef yourself back there.
Of course.
Okay,
very nice.
this is
the second one is like a tom yum, but this is very special because from the recipe 100 years ago, when you cook this one, you have to put the rice, the raw one, in the soup, especially when you cook with the fish. That the rice make it not make a fishy, you know.
Yeah.
So this is very helpful for the dry rice. And then this is stir fry the wagyu beef with the cumin leaf. You know cumin leaf?
Cumin leaf, beautiful, okay.
Yeah, it's the same family with like basil, sweet basil, the same family.
Yep.
But this is stronger than that one. When you stir fry with something like a beef, it feel like a strong. You put this one. In Thai people, they call yira, by yira. Okay.
You can't have a proper Thai meal without a nam prik.
Okay, nam prik, you know nam prik. Can you eat this, nam prik? Because this is sometimes the foreigner is quite strong because made from dry shrimp.
Well, that's why you're supposed to mix with the rice.
Yes,
yeah?
Of course. But for Thai people, we just eat with the vegetable Okay, but well, with rice is better.
Yep.
Okay. Another one is that one we call catch of the day because this fish is different every day. This from the farmer, no, not farmer, fisherman from south of Thailand. This kind of fish is named kamung kamin. Kamung kamin is from Andaman Sea, from the fisherman. Okay, then in the soup, this one we call sea bass. One kind of sea bass is we call kapong tong is sea bass. One kind of sea bass.
Is there an order that you recommend us to eat this in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or just have fun?
You just first you take the rice, okay, and then you try this one first.
Okay.
Okay.
Chef, we have a boat coming to pick us up in 20 minutes, so we're gonna eat.
Okay.
And I want to eat this while it's
All right. Okay.
still
Thank you very
warm.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Okay,
Chef.
hope
Amazing work.
Okay. Hope to see you somewhere somehow. Okay. Thank you
I'm
very much
sure
for
you'll
coming.
see us again for
okay,
sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
When the officials arrived in 1993, they pushed Ko Kret for the CBT program because of two main selling points. First, the leaning pagoda, and second, the Mon craftsmanship, as many of the locals had preserved the tradition of making intricate works of clay. The success of the Ko Kret Market would breathe life into the island's economy, while the unique idea, keeping all the businesses to one corner while everything else remained untouched, allowed the people to avoid the development and change that's taken over so much of this region. And it kept this place somehow still full of secrets, with old homes and even villages still inaccessible and quite literally off the map. But what the government guys couldn't have guessed was that 20 years after their first visit, a new business would open that would give the island not just a new draw, but perhaps its main identity. Now, this might be our first time telling this story, but it's not the first time we filmed on Ko Kret. We came here in one of our very first videos, brought by two of the kingdom's craft beer pioneers. Now again, I won't get too deep into this because it deserves its own complete video, but craft brewing is generally illegal in Thailand. This is a place where the beer laws are written by the major companies, and to do it anyway, well, you need to find somewhere discreet where you can hide in plain sight. Enter Wichit Khao, known to everyone as Chit. He's a Ko Kret native, descended from the island's old inhabitants, and of all things, a former colonel in the Thai army. And on December 23, 2012, he opened Chit Beer, a renegade pirate ship brewpub that landed him in endless legal trouble, but blasted the door open for others to follow. And today he's considered the godfather of Thai craft beer. The bar itself, like the rest of the public-facing part of Ko Kret, is only open on Saturdays and Sundays. But for us, that's good enough. A perfect way to cool down and end our day on the island. I guess this isn't really a conclusion. It was hard to figure out how to tell this story, and even harder to find a way to end it, when honestly, we've only seen a tiny fraction of the tiny island. Just the market. One single house repurposed as a restaurant, and this brew pub. The rest of Ko Kret is still a mystery. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it wasn't an accident that for 220 years this place stayed off the map, even as the world grew up around it. And for the last 30, it's still only given up a tiny corner. For a few hours, 2 days a week. But at least that tiny corner has enough fascinating stuff to keep us coming back. And some of the country's best beer to wash it all down before we head over to the other world, just a few meters away across the river. Subscribe to the channel for more from OTR. Thank you so much to everyone who supports us on Patreon. It really helps to keep us going. Find links below to our Patreon and social media, and we'll see you soon. do we have? We have something that looks like it's steamed, or I guess it's baked, but very dense and glutinous kind of cake, and crispy fried garlic on top. Let's try it.
It is what it is. It is a coconut snack with garlic.
It's exactly what it sounds like it's going to be. I mean, like, it's not bad. It's a delicious coconut egg cake and a really nice bit of fried garlic. I don't know that I would have ever anticipated these two being combined. You want to try this?
It's like
I went light on the garlic for you.
one of the comedians.
Hang on, hold this.
One of the comedians said it. Like it's like kids in leather jackets.
Sprinkle
Separate
some more
them.
garlic here.
It's
See, you know, eventually when you separate them in your mouth, it's pretty good.